All right, it says that I'm live. Oh, the sun's in my face. I don't know if y'all can see me. I was gonna wait for some folks to show up. Hi, folks. Hi, people. Hello, 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 hello. Glad to have folks here. Yay! This is kind of a What's Up Y'all follow-up from a What's Up Y'all this morning. I just want to give folks a chance to arrive. I think these few hundred folks feel like good. Hi. Hi. Good afternoon. Morena. Yeah, so I did a video yesterday. It's my What's Up Y'all that's actually up today. Yesterday was hard, y'all. Nice, London. London. We got New Zealand in the house. It's a number of folks from around the world. I'm so glad you're here. Yeah, I don't know who else had a hard day yesterday, but yesterday was out here in these streets being complicated. We got Ireland in the house. What's up, y'all? Buona giornata. Giornata. The UK. I love it. Yeah, I can't believe they took their $6,000 too. So for those of y'all who have not watched my What's Up Y'all video today, I had a really horrible encounter with the police yesterday, where, I mean, and it was worse for the folks who were in direct engagement. The police pulled over two young black men in a car, and I pulled over to watch and to make sure that things were okay, and ended up being there for nearly 2 hours as I watched the police just do completely illegal things, handcuff people, put them in the back of the patrol car, terrorize me, just by having to witness it, and then take their money and let them go. And it was awful, and it was horrible. And, if you've been following my conversations, then you know that, my transition back to the U.S. has been complex, is the right word for it. It has been a lot of things. It's been both, serendipitous and beautiful and powerful. And it's also been really painful and confusing and sad, because there's so much to be sad about here. That is what is true. But I'm very clear, I can't speak for anybody else and anybody else's journey, but what I can tell you 100% for me is that all of the things that happened to me are about a larger spiritual lesson. They really are. And like I said, I can't speak for other people and what their, what your belief is or whatever that is. And I trust you to work that out with you and whoever else it is on your team. But for me, it is very clear, has been very clear, continues to be very clear that when things happen, whatever they are, I'm trying to be taught something. And usually I'm trying to be taught something that I'm supposed to share with y'all. And that I'm supposed to share with us, right? Because first I have to get it, and then, as been true for my whole life, once I get it, I recognize that it ain't just me. I'm not, there's 8 billion of us on this planet, which means it can't just be me, right? And so here's the lesson that I got out of that really painful experience yesterday, and it was really painful, and I definitely, one of the major spiritual lessons that I am learning and continue to learn is how not to be in my victim self, to not give away my power by saying that things happened to me, particularly when they are things that I did have choice in, and that is a complicated and difficult navigation in a world of oppression and violence. And I want to acknowledge that it is a complicated and difficult navigation in a world of oppression and violence, where a lot of things do happen to us that are, outside of our control, that are outside of anything that we did other than just be living in the bodies that we're living in, that get targeted in the way that they get targeted. And so I never want to erase the external factors that exist in the world, because they are real. And I never want to erase the internal access to power that I have to navigate the world, because that too is real. And both of those have to be held. Both of those have to be let in. Otherwise, then we're only just at the whim of the world, right? If we decide that we have zero power, right, then we might as well just hang it all up. Then it's a wrap out in these streets, right? Like, if there's no power, then nothing that we do has any impact. And we know that to actually not be true, right? We actually know that to not be true. And so much of my own journey that I signed up for, obviously, was, how do I live into my personal power in such a way that I continue to impact the larger world and the structures and systems that are out in the world. And so, and that is the work of radical self-love, right? That is why my work is radical self-love, is because it is about how is it that I harness that which is inherently me, that which I know that I am, in such a way that those things that will attempt to squash me, shrink me, disempower me, dismantle me, that those things are not allowed to continue to thrive in my life. They still show up. They, be clear, it's like whack-a-mole up in these streets. That's up, down. But the difference is whack-a-mole, because I will whack it. Because I have a sense of personal power that allows me to push back on that which attempts to push on me. So my biggest lesson is about how do I not claim myself powerless in places where I actually have power? And how do I reframe my life so that I can see where I have access to power? And so here's the deal. Yesterday, there were a couple of moments where I had access to power, and I don't know. I would like to think that my presence yesterday potentially kept people from behaving in a way that they would have behaved differently if there were not eyes on them. And so I'd like to think that, but I don't, but I can't know for sure, and I never will know for sure. I know that I did what it was that I felt I needed to do, which was to be a presence in the space. The other thing that I know is that we all left alive, and that matters. And that I was able to say to a young man, as he was rightfully enraged at how he was being treated, hey, we want to get out of this alive today, right? I was able to say that to them in a situation in which I felt really powerless. I felt incredibly powerless. But here's the bigger lesson. Here's the lesson that I actually really, really left with. Right before, right, and I talked in my What's Up Y'all video about this, about having such a difficult time letting in the blessings, letting in the gifts, right? Like that while on one hand it was this incredible violence that I'm subjected to, that people who look like me are subjected to people who are in marginalized identities are subjected to. There's that violence, right? That I don't have any singular power to dismantle these institutions of that violence. But what I was struggling was like, right, blackness as trauma is this idea, or blackness, to be black is to be in a state of constant trauma. Here's the deal, because the other thing I said the other day too is that blackness is also joy, and that our joy just is, and it just is despite our trauma. And when I realized that our joy just is and trauma just is, both of these things just are, they just are the reality of the world that we live in. The difference was that there is a way in which, from my conscious mind, not my spiritual self, right? Because when I talk about joy's isness, it is a spiritual principle. It is that it is uncontainable because we don't think about it. It just is, right? Like we're not out here planning, like how can I be joyful today? Is not usually how joy comes about. Joy comes about because it comes up from that which is inherently in us and then wants to be expressed externally. And so we're not out here having to overthink joy. Joy makes itself available to us as a function of life, just as trauma makes itself available to us as a function of life. And the difference is that my trauma makes my mind want to find a way to control. And so my mind controls how much joy I give myself access to. It won't let in the joy because it's afraid that the joy is going to leave. Right? And so it's actually right? It's like I block my ability, my full access to joy because I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Here's the deal, yo. This is wait for it. And I've said this before, but I never internalized it until yesterday. It's been an intellectual understanding, but it was not a somatic understanding. It was not an embodied understanding. And yesterday it became an embodied understanding. When that stuff happened to those boys, and I sat there and I watched that, and I came back home and I was disassembled with grief. I was disassembled with grief. It was so painful and so hurtful and so wildly infuriating and enraging. And what I did was I felt the fullness of the sorrow of how this society treats Black people. I felt the visceral, full, embodied experience of how the world treats Black folks. And every day I feel the full, embodied, visceral experience of how marginalized people are treated. It's the reason I do the work I do. I let that visceral experience in my body fuel my work, inspire me to write, create from it, do activist work from it. I let it in its fullness, and it moves me to action. And I am guaranteed to get that in this world set up on oppression and violence. How silly of me. And I say silly with a tenderness. I say silly with a sweet girl. That's how I feel toward myself when I think about it. That the universe, my ancestors, my guides, know that trauma is part of the world. And they also know that joy is part of the world. And if I am willing to let the fullness of the pain inspire me, how dare I not let the fullness of the joy do the same? How dare I not let in with equal measure that which is abundant, which is gorgeous, which is rich, which is the evidence of human connection, which is the evidence of our love, which is the evidence of our resilience, which is the evidence of our connection, which is the evidence of our ability to circumnavigate the systems of oppression and to live into a richer, fuller being with ourselves and one another. How dare I not allow myself to as powerfully embody those moments as well? because they are here too to give me just as much information, as just as much inspiration, just as much resource and abundance. The isness of joy is as powerful as the isness of trauma. And the only thing that keeps us from being in the full access of the isness of joy is that we live in the fear of trauma. But if both are inevitable, then why would we not let both in equal measure? And yesterday I sat as I wanted to understand what was happening. I was like, why is this happening? You know, after I had just gotten off a call with my therapist saying, I really have a hard time letting in all the amazing things that are happening to me. And then I got in a car and I went to pick up a rental car and I got in this horrible experience with these police officers and these boys. And I was like, oh, right. Because I get to choose what I fully let in. I get to choose. There's the choice. Are you going to be as embodied in your joy as you are in your sorrow? Are you going to be as overflowing in that abundance as you are in your outrage? Sonia, or whoever else might be listening. That is our choice. No, I don't have a choice about whether or not the police are going to be violent instruments of the institution of white supremacist delusion. I do not have a choice in whether or not that institution will operate like that. And no, I don't have a choice in whether or not they will stop black boys and steal their money. I do not have a choice in that. But I do have a choice to be as fueled by the fact that thousands of people have decided to give their money to help me eradicate my student loans, the thing that's been sitting on my neck for 20 years, that I get to be as inspired that there are 300 white people with wealth who have said we will give money to 300 black people with debt, and that those people's applications are sitting in my inbox right now waiting for me to match them up to clear institutional white supremacist debt. That last week, a month ago, an editor at a major publishing house just wrote me and said, hey, I love you. Want to write a book? And that this is how life happens for us. And everybody's examples won't be the same, but you find your examples, because I assure you, for every act of disenchantment and disconnection and sadness, there is an opportunity of the universe showing you grace and love, connection, and compassion. In whatever your particular version is. Mine just happened to be real big because I picked the assignment to live a very big life. And so my examples be real disparate and extreme sometimes. But there is a way in which we are all being given the invitation to be as powerfully activated in our joy as we are activated in our outrage. And I am a person who is often inspired by outrage. And I'm often outraged. All the time. There's a lot of shit to be outraged about. And there's a lot of shit to be joyful about. And I'm learning to live in my joy as I'm learning to allow it to be as powerful a spigot as my outrage is. So yeah, that's the spiritual lesson I got yesterday after that hard encounter. And it's the one that I wanted to make sure that you all get as well, because it's not either or. I saw someone say, how do you balance joy and trauma? And it isn't about balancing. It's about accepting both for their facticity. They both are. They both will always be. The problem is that because we don't control either of them, we are constantly trying to trick our brains into thinking, well, if I temper my response to the joy, then I'll be bracing for the sorrow, which isn't true. When the sorrow comes, it's going to slap you upside your head the same way it would have if you wasn't thinking about it. And the only thing that we actually do is truncate our ability to feel the joy. And that's the part we're missing. Is it like, why would we truncate our access to joy in preparation for sorrow? When the universe, here we go, here's the tea. You don't have to balance joy and sorrow because the universe already has. You have to be willing to open both valves at equal measure and stop pretending like you have control over which one decides to come into your life. The universe has assured that there will be sorrow and there will be joy. They are there. That is part of the life experience of being human. What we do is we think we have some control over that, and so we're always hedging, trying to see if we can't lessen the sorrow, or being so focused on the sorrow that we can't fully let in the joy. That's our lesson. Our lesson is about, how do I get out of the way of that which the universe is trying to give me? Recognizing that it's going to give me both. So how about I let myself be in the fullness of both? Because they are all impermanent. They are all going to change and pass and move, interchangeably with one another. How do I learn to be in the center? That's radical self-love. How do I learn to be in the center and allow all the things that will come through to come through? It's not about balancing anything. It's not it's not ours to balance. It's already in balance. It's ours to stop trying to tip the scale in one way or the other. So that was it. It was, and I wanted to come back on and I wanted to do the live because I wanted to remind us that there's to listen for the lesson. I'm a seeker, and sometimes that seeking gets me in trouble. And then sometimes that seeking means I'm like, right, okay, what does the universe want me to know? What do my ancestors want me to know? What does life want me to know in this moment? It's trying to teach me something. What does life want me to know? Oh, it wants me to see how I'm really fully willing to let in this rage and outrage and sorrow. Well, this morning I was talking about how hard it was to connect to the joy. Oh, and I have the choice. I have the choice to do that too. So, yes, I will save this IG Live. I will have it, I will make sure that it gets, a version of it will get captioned. And make sure that it gets up on my page. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for supporting. Thank you so much for being consistently. You all are in right relationship in a way that is shocks me, both economically and emotionally. Thank you for being interested in the reciprocity of our work. And I do want to continue to encourage people that reciprocity and right relationship is not only economic for me. I appreciate you giving love offerings when I share these things. Thank you very much. You're making things possible for me. I'm probably going to be able to get a car. So thank you. I gave mine away before I moved to here. And that there are so many other ways that you can be of support. So, there are ways that we can be in right relationship that are not just that. So don't run around thinking it's only that. Think about other ways in which right relationship is also possible. I love y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you for letting me share that epiphany, that revelation with you all. And If you are interested in being a contributor for Buy Back Black Debt, the link is in my bio. If you are a Black person with debt and would love to have that related, the link is in my bio. If you wish to pay down a little bit of something on Sonya Renee Taylor's school loans, I will deeply and appreciatively accept. And that's on my Instagram page. You can see any of the posts with Brenda Barros, any of those posts with a beautiful Latinx woman on them. Those are the ones with the directions for the student loans. And there are a lot of other things that are getting ready to come up. I can't wait to tell you all about them, and I can't wait to enlist your help in moving them forward. We're creating a new world. I'm so grateful to be in it with you. Grateful. All right. Mwah. Bye, y'all.